Is our first episode with a new guest this season, season 4. Can you believe it? It is absolutely bonkers to me that we've been around for 4 seasons now, and we're so excited about what we have in store for you all. We're so grateful to you for continuing to watch and share our episodes. We love this community so much, and we're so excited to kind of explore and dive deeper because we want to leave it better than when we found it. And every guest that we have is working at that as well. So we're really pumped to be here for season 4 with all of you. This is the show that we're talking about all the things that impact the dance community and performance athletes in general, from gender equity, racism, sex abuse and prevention, nutrition, psychology, and of course, dance medicine and science, our favorite. And we're going to highlight, and we're going to have a guest expert on every single week and talk about one question under any one of those topics so that we can learn more, share perspective, education, and resources with all of you. And hopefully you can take those things back to your studio and consider them as you go through your season. So that is Beyond the Steps. I am Bree Zabrowski. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Apollo Performance Wear, here with my fabulous friend and co-host, Melissa McDaniel Grisham. Love her to pieces and so glad to do this work with her every single week. And we have an exciting guest for you today. So Melissa, tell everybody who we have with us.
We are excited to have Trisha Gomez back with us. She is a repeat guest and the creator of Hip Hop in a Box and the global director of RhythmWorks Integrative Dance, where she blazes the path of opportunity for students who have learning differences and special needs by educating dance teachers on all aspects of becoming an inclusive studio. Much needed service. Trisha's unwavering dedication to education and her unique teaching methods have landed her on the Dr. Phil Show and the TV show Dance Revolution as a lead judge. She's also a teaching artist and consultant for Disney Performing Arts, where she has the honor of working with dancers from around the world. Welcome back, Trisha.
Thank you guys for having me back. Hi.
So you do work around students with probably learning differences, special needs, probably neurodivergent students as well. So tell us a little bit how you got into this work.
Wow. Well, that's a loaded question. You know how things happen in life and the universe just kind of points you to something, and there's kind of a repeat theme that happens over and over again that comes at you from all the different angles. That's the story in a nutshell. Basically, I just call it kind of a divine intervention that happened and just pointed me in this direction. And by nature, I'm kind of like a science nerd. So as I was diving into how can dance impact the brain, I was just like, oh my gosh, like this, everybody needs to know this information because, I mean, we all know dance is like magical, right? But we don't really understand, or most people don't really understand how it really forms and shapes and impacts our brain. And I think with a little bit of knowledge, that it can change a dance teacher's purpose in the classroom. I mean, 99.9% of the teachers or the kids that we teach are not going to become professional dancers, but we will impact them outside of the classroom. I look at like major CEOs or, big time executives in major companies, and they're all former dancers. I think it does something to us that just allows us to maybe have a little bit of a leg up over people who don't. I don't know. I'm just saying that.
Love it. I agree with you 100%. I do.
100%. It makes you a more well-rounded person that knows how to work on a team, that has confidence. I mean, all of the benefits of dance are just unbelievable. And it goes so much deeper than just the steps. It goes beyond the steps.
It totally goes beyond the steps.
So Trisha's work is just enormous, and the scope of the work that she does is absolutely enormous. But today we're going to talk about child development and early intervention as it relates to offering parent and me classes. Parent and me classes are classes that for years and years have they used to be go by a different name. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But the parent and me classes are classes, if you're unfamiliar with them, where the parent comes in and actually participates in the curriculum with the student for that day. And when Trisha and I were speaking about coming on the show this season, she said, I want to talk about the benefits of child development and the ability to have early intervention in certain things by having parent and me classes. So Trisha, I really want to start at, we like start base level here, remember, because we never know where the knowledge level of our viewers may be, and our knowledge level may be ground level as well. What does the research show about the importance of parent and me classes? So the positive and maybe even not so positive impacts on the actual student.
Yeah, I think it has its roots in that early intervention in the therapy sense, like a setting type environment. Before the age of 3, a child's brain is just like exploding with neural connections, right? So everything that we experience is new, and we're, what fires together wires together. So, so much is happening in the brain. And by providing these opportunities for these kids to go through different sensory experiences, to be aware of their surroundings and practice certain things that are typical milestone onboard skills, that's what we're providing in those parent and me classes, is that you're basically doing an early intervention program, at that point. I think one of the biggest things that most people don't consider, and is probably one of the most foundational impacts, is secure attachment and baby bonding, and that time to experience a joyful moment with a parent. And that secure attachment really, I don't know how much you guys know about secure attachment, but it lays that foundation for just, trusting relationships and our ability to interact with other people in healthy ways, and our ability to approach and make friends with people and feel safe and, regulate stress and all those things. There's a lot of research that shows that kids who don't have opportunities to create secure attachments at infancy and before 3 will have challenges later in life. So I think by fostering that in our parent and me classes, we're doing a huge benefit to our students. So lots of things, but yes, mostly just brain explosions happening and our ability to experience those sensory and physical and language opportunities at an early age. And real quick too, I do want to say there's this really interesting study that I can't remember who did it, but they put a dancer, an adult dancer, in an MRI and had them do all these different, like they would just play music by itself, and then they would have them do movements alone, and then they would put music on and have them do like footwork, like tango footwork on a board at where the feet were, and timing. And what they noticed was that all of a sudden the brain starts lighting up in different ways and starts speaking to each other in different ways that normally the brain doesn't speak to each other in those ways. And so these new neural connections happen. And this is why I say dance is so magical, because those 3 things combined, so sound, movement, and timing, rhythm, those 3 things combined create all these new neural connections in our brain. And you're even, look how much research is coming out about Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's and how dance impacts them there. So, it's magical.
One of the things that came to mind while you were speaking about the benefits for the student in these parent and me classes was possible benefits for the parent who's in there. As a parent, you're constantly in this hypervigilant state, always trying to make sure the child is safe and well taken care of and has their needs met. And it feels like sometimes there's so few times for you to just have someone else be concerned about the overall safety and creating a safe environment, and you're just able to actually enjoy your child, like you said, the
Yeah.
joy. Do you find that to be true in these parent and me classes? Like that's just time to connect on a joyful level without that
Yeah,
overarching responsibility.
it creates community. So you
Mhm.
have all of these new parents, or who, maybe they're not a new parent, but maybe, they have their new babies, because we started
Mhm.
at 3 months old. And, they're in there with other people who are going through the same thing, so they can bond over that. And they're being provided an opportunity to kind of learn about what to look for.
Mhm.
Why are we doing these silly little things in class? How are these activities helpful for my child? And how can then I bring that back into my home
Mhm.
and continue to do these things? Because at those ages, repetition, you cannot repeat anything enough, right? The
Right.
more you do it, the better you do it, or the better it benefits. So, having that education, and one of the things, like with IntelliDance, which is a program that I acquired a couple years ago, which is an early childhood parent and me curriculum. um, the the way we do it is the teacher facilitates the
Mhm.
parent facilitates the child.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so it's not like a class where you're like, okay, like, mommy, if they
Mhm.
need help them out. The parent is the main teacher to the kid. Before the age of 3, the parents are the main teacher for children. So the children are always looking to the parents of what should I do? How should I act? How do I follow along? What goes, how do I participate? And if the parent is just kicking it off on the side and, texting on their cell phone or talking to somebody, then those kids see that. Even if they're babies and young, they're going to pick up on that. So having the parents participate is super important. Um, but also educating the parents. So part of what we do with our curriculum is, as we're introducing a routine or an activity, we're explaining to them, like, well, when you do this, it's exciting the vestibular system. That's going to be good for handwriting and balance and crossing the midline. And, like, we go through all of these things and educate parents about sensory integration and how that
Mhm.
impacts their child. And so that when they become aware of it, then they start to see the actual benefits of it, right? Because think about this, like, think about all of the possible things a child before 3 might engage in. So swim, right? Just about every kid's going to go to swim class. Why? Because it's safety related.
Mhm.
Every parent knows that if I want my child to be safe near a body of water, I need to get them in swim class as soon as possible, right? They see that. They know the benefits. They're going to pay a lot of money to go to swim class. Every kid's going to go to swim class.
Mhm.
Then they get into, early school and maybe high school, and the parents throw out a ton of money to be part of travel ball, right?
Mhm.
Why? Because they see that they can maybe get a scholarship later down the road, and they see the benefits. They know the benefits. Whereas dance class, I think in general, while we are an art form, there's so much more than just an art or
Mhm.
just a feeling. And if I think we've had a marketing problem in the previous years, where if we can
Right.
actually get parents to understand what's actually happening to their kids in dance
Yeah.
class, then we
Yep.
start to, like, lay down that necessity perception, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
My kids,
Instead, dance later isn't the first thing to go when
right,
they
Right.
right,
Right.
right.
they get too
Yeah, I mean,
active and
you don't
things
see
like
any
that. I love
you
that.
don't see any parents pulling their kids out of preschool because they want to go play soccer, right?
Right.
It's preschool is important for their development.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
think if we can kind of, like, change the narrative as to what we actually do, and then actually do that in class and educate the parents about it while we're doing it, then you really start to form that, like, long-term bond and loyalty to dance and the arts and
Yeah.
music. So
That is such
I also want to call out, though, too, like something very much less scientific, but equally as important, is like we have a lot of two income families, and a lot of parents work and have other people, taking care of their kids during the day. And so really these classes, in addition to all the benefits you just named, they're providing an opportunity for parents to connect to their children. And the reality is, like, people have to work, especially right now when things are crazy with our economy like that. It's a scary time financially for a lot of people. And that you're providing that opportunity for a parent, if we can make that 1 hour a week or whatever it is, focus on that bond between parent and child, and that parent, like you said, is understanding more about their children during that time, that's going to provide so much more.
Yeah, and it gives the parents an opportunity to see their kids in a different world other than home, right? And they
Sure.
start to maybe kind of see, wow, my kid's really excelling at this thing, but maybe they're falling a little bit behind in this thing. And it may open their eyes to areas where maybe they can reach out and seek additional supports for areas that they're falling behind in, where they
Yeah.
may have not known or noticed that beforehand. And
Oh,
it doesn't get noticed until they go to school, and then now it's kind of like, well, what now, right?
right, right,
Yeah.
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 right. Exactly. Exactly.
Can you share some success stories or testimonials from parents who, where you've seen positive developmental outcomes in their children, and attending your studio's Parent and Me classes or your programs that you offer, because you have so many wonderful ones?
Yeah, I think it's there's kind of a theme that kind of happens over and over again in terms of participation, right? So a child comes in, it seems that they're not interested in it, or there may be
Sure.
some like behavioral problems, or they're not following instructions, and things like that. But through the course of an 8-week session, you see that change. And like I said, a big part of that is by having the parents be the role model for those
Yeah.
kids. Other things that happen are like language explosions. We've had kids come in not talking, and
Mm,
then after maybe a couple of sessions, their language just explodes, because what we're doing in class is you're connecting words to things. So I remember I was working with a renowned occupational therapist, and she said, you can teach someone up and down, but until you experience up and down, you really don't connect long term those two things together, right? So
Yeah.
as we're experiencing big and little and crooked and straight and loud and soft and all these different music and movement dynamics, and putting language to it and connecting body parts to it and all those things, we're building this great like literacy platform
mm, yeah.
for those kids. And so so language explosion is one of them. Self-regulation is another one, where we see kids who struggle with kind of behavior in the beginning of classes, but because we're in a community setting and kids learn by observation,
Mhm.
kids can learn how to self-regulate from watching other people. And I think the other one is just onboarding of motor skills too.
Mhm.
um, I've seen with our Rhythm Works classes, I've seen kids who have plateaued in therapy, and then,
Yeah.
they come into dance class, and all of a sudden they're just onboarding all of these skills that their therapists are like, I've been trying to get
Do
you
that right.
for months. So yeah, I mean, those are just recurring themes that seem to happen
Mhm.
all the time.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Really, really, really awesome results. If you are just tuning in, this is Beyond the Steps, and we are here with Trisha Gomez, and we are talking about the benefits of Parent and Me classes to early childhood development as well as early intervention. We've had some great aha moments. Trisha has made some amazing points. If you want to go back and watch this episode from the beginning, you can find it on YouTube at Apollo Performance or at TP Dance Creations. We love to hear from you. Please drop your thoughts in the comments and let us know what you think, what you have experienced. If you have had these types of classes at your studio, we would love, love, love to hear from you. Also, like, share, and subscribe to Apollo Performance or 2P Dance Creations, and let people know that this type of content is out there. So, change is hard for people. Change is hard. Really, is it? So change is hard for people, and putting classes like this on your schedule can sometimes face some obstacles and opposition. And I do want to go back and mention we're calling them parent and me classes, but formally and traditionally these were always called mommy and me classes. So if you're like, what are they talking about, parent and me? You might have known them as mommy and me, but from just an inclusion standpoint and equity standpoint, it's not necessarily a gender role that a mom has to come or that even a biological parent. We're talking about that secure attachment, as you were talking about, Trisha, in the with an adult. So that's kind of where that name shift came from. But I want to talk about some of the obstacles that directors or teachers might face as they attempt to offer these type of classes. What are some of the challenges? It sounds great. It's like, yeah, let's offer it, but I'm sure there's some
we all know that it's scheduling is like a puzzle.
Right.
It's a giant puzzle. So first of all, it's got to be just getting somebody to look at their schedule and go, okay, I need to add this. Where am I going to put that? Or what am I going to remove or make this instead?
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to staff this? Right? Like that's such a thing. And I think as studio owners, this is a recurring thing on the show that we talk about. Like we get caught in that hamster wheel of like, this is what I did last year. I'm going to slap the same schedule on top and fill those spots in, and it makes it easier. And sometimes we really need to pull ourselves back and go, okay, what can I do different? And, you might find that this is an additional revenue stream for your studio that you didn't have before. So interested to hear your perspective on this, Trisha.
Yeah. So, gosh, my brain's like, I want to go in so many different
directions.
I know. People joke about this, but studios get calls from parents that are like, do you guys have dance class for 3-month-olds?
Yeah.
Right. And so why not?
It's a constant joke. And the dance teacher networks is like, people are like 18 months,
but she's a very advanced dancer. Very advanced.
Ready for point.
Right.
So, opening your doors. So number one, opening your doors from like 3 months old to before preschool, you're getting a whole new audience here that you're bringing them into your studio before any other studio is going to get to them. And so now the family's aware of what you offer, and there's a little bit of loyalty there as long as you're doing things the right way.
Right. Say that again for the people in the back.
As long as you're doing things the right way, everybody. And by what I mean by that is, look at starting from your marketing. What kind of pictures are you including in your marketing for your parent and me classes, right? Are you including pictures of like a little tiny kid in this big tutu looking thing, and then all of a sudden a parent's going to be like, oh God, my child's never going to be able to wear that. They're going to like throw a fit every time I try to get in there. It doesn't show anything about parent participation or what parents should expect out of the class. And the parents show up and they're like, what do you mean I got to participate? Right. So use pictures that show experiences in class that involve the parents and the kids and, the joyfulness that's created in class. So I think attracting the right people is where you start off with that. I think another pitfall that people fall into is they will combine too big of an age range. So there's major leaps and onboarding of skills that happen from 3 months to 11 months, and then 12 months to 23 months, and then 2 to 4-year-olds. So by, if you're having a class that is 18 months to 3 years old, there's a big developmental gap in there. And so it's either going to be too hard for the younger kids to understand or too easy for the older kids. And you're going to see behavior problems and parents are going to get frustrated. But if you can separate them into like little age groups and focus in on what is important developmentally for those age groups, then I think you get a lot more participation and understanding of what's actually going on. So I think reevaluating what age groups you're doing it. The way the IntelliDance program separates it, we do 3 to 11-month-olds, which is our babies program. 12 to 23-month-old, which is our tykes. 2 to 4-year-old is tots. Those are the parented classes. And then we have an additional class that's actual preschool class that follows the same format, so that kids who are used to the class format then go into an independent participation class that they're familiar with, that we then kind of start trickling in like some more technique things. And I think that leads me to my next thing is we call them Brussels sprout activities or cotton candy activities. So Brussels sprout activities would be something like you trying to teach technique to an 18-month-old, where there's a specific outcome that you need. It's regimented. You have to do this certain thing. You drill it. And the 18-month is just like, what? Like, I don't want to do that right now. That's not what's going on in my brain. So, Brussels sprout activities would be just things that have no play element to it, right? Then cotton candy activities are just activities that have no purpose to them. They're just like fun and wild and crazy, and the kids are going bonkers. And then it's really hard to like rein them in once that activity stops, because they're just like, woo, fun time. So what you have to do is you have to find a balance. So a child learns by play. And so everything that we do needs to be wrapped up into play, and based on what that child is focusing on at that time of life. So for example, like babies 3 to 9 or 3 to 11 months old, it really, really is about secure attachment and bonding at that point. So everything is focused on that parent and that baby together. Then when you're looking at like the next age group up, maybe those 1-year-olds, they're all about exploring, right? So everything we're doing, it's like it creates that magical exploration of like, I wonder what would happen if we did blah 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 blah, right? In those types of exploration activities. And then the next group up, they're problem solving. They're really starting to build those skills. So a lot of like, I wonder how we could move our elbows in space, right? So, turning everything into fun and games with a purpose to it is where you really want your curriculum to lie, to be most impactful for them. I think I talked about this earlier, not having the parents involved. I can't tell you how many times I have seen on the Facebook people that are like, I just can't get my parents to stop talking in the class. All they do is sit on the side and talk. And I'm like, because you're not involving them.
Right.
You're using them as assistants in class when they should be your main student. And then they are, they're giving the instructions to their kids, right? So, I think.
So I love this for so many reasons, because I think to your point, you're making your life easier down the road. Not only, let me step back. You're making a huge difference in the lives of the kids and the parents. That's obviously number one. But the second part of that is you're adding an additional revenue stream as a business owner, right? Which we all desperately are craving and looking for. You're also making your life easier down the road, because rather than teaching them a classroom format when they come into your studio at 5, 6, 7 years old, which you do already have technique classes built for, you're laying the groundwork for them to understand that foundation much earlier and make that transition much smoother into a technique classroom setting, right? The one question I have on this, right, is like, I'm sitting here going, why would everyone not be doing this? This is a no-brainer.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, but I know from being on that other side of it, it is not as easy as it sounds to find someone who is qualified, patient, consistent enough to teach these classes. And I think that's where we get into trouble, is like, we all think it's so easy, until I've always said teaching the 3-year-old age or even below is probably the hardest thing. I mean, I would come out from those classes sweating bullets. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. And if you can do that, you can do anything. Where I think some people feel the opposite.
Right.
I feel like that is the hardest age. And if you can do that well, and they leave feeling amazing about themselves, then that's where the qualification
3-year-olds
right?
are unforgiving, honey.
Like it is.
You do
Yeah, and the parent, I mean, it's just you have to do there's so much right in that space, and it looks so much easier than it is if you're doing it well, but how do you find that? Because I
Right.
don't want people out there to think, "Well, I'm just gonna put these on the schedule, teach it myself," and then end
Right.
up opposite from the benefits that we've talked about. There is a technique to it. There is a very important to be done well to get the results that we're talking about today. So what is it that we're looking for when we staff those classes?
I'm so glad you brought this up because I get this
Yeah.
all the time, a question about this. Because they're like, "Oh, I have this new teacher. She's 19 and she loves
Oh
getting the
gosh.
little
Yeah.
I'm like, no." And she's an
Yeah.
old soul and has a baby, and like,
Sure.
the things that you want to look for are, I always say, look for former students who now have kids of their own, who stayed local, who love dance, who love the studio, who would make a great teacher, and give them what to teach, right? So you don't there, outside of IntelliDance, there's other curriculum out there as well. So you have the pick of the litter of whatever you want in terms of curriculum to give to them. Just make sure it's a good one. But you want someone who understands what parents are going through, right? So they're walking in, the child's crying, they have their, all their bags of stuff and walking into the room. And if the teacher's not aware of like, oh my gosh, let me hold so-and-so while you can put your stuff down, or let me put the stuff down for you, or, you need to be attentive to the needs of the parents. You also have to have that confidence to be able to lead the parents, right? Because again, you're leading the parents,
Yes.
and they'll take care of their kids, but you need that confidence that comes along with not being afraid to tell a parent, try it this way instead, or watch out, I see you're holding them like this, why don't you turn them around and support their head, or you know you want to be able to correct where corrections need to be had. You want to be able to empathize with them. You don't, again, you do not have to be a fantastic dancer. You don't have to be a fantastic singer. You just need to be able to deliver the curriculum and earn the respect of the people in the
Well,
class.
and what you had said earlier of having the maturity and the awareness to know how to control the classroom without controlling the classroom, because things are clearly going to go
Oh yeah,
off plan and off the beaten
right.
path, and that has to be okay. Like that takes a lot of maturity and classroom control to be able to be okay with that and then reroute it back to where you need it to
Right.
be. So I think it's counterintuitive, because I think what we see oftentimes with studios is the thought is immediately, let's give this to the 16, 17,
Right.
18-year-old assistant on staff, or the college teacher. And in some cases, that person may be absolutely the right person for that situation, but I would bet more often than not, it's what you said. It's the older. And I think we really have to make sure that we're aware of that and we're scheduling this responsibly, because clearly from just the small conversation we're having, I know we could go way deeper with you. From the things we're talking about today, this is perhaps the most important class you could offer at your studio, not only for the developmental benefits for the children that they're getting, but also because you have the potential to increase your lifetime value in this customer and have them for
Yeah.
forever, right?
Mhm.
Like you're adding 5 more years onto
Yeah.
that lifetime value.
Right.
You just triggered a conversation I remembered having. So we were at Energize. I was teaching at Energize this past summer, and we taught a class about Parent and Me, and we would take them through, like, we would do the activity, and then we would tell them this is the benefits of the activity, and we would go through all the things. And this lady came up to me afterwards, and she's like, I finally get it. She goes, these are child development classes, and dance is the vehicle that we're using. These are not dance classes. This is a child development class. And I was like, yes, that's what I've been trying to like drive into the head of
Yeah.
everybody, that, dance, what we do is we make great humans.
Yeah.
Dance is the
Well,
vehicle in which we do it.
Yeah, and because we're on that hamster wheel, I think when that parent does call and say, "Do you have dance classes for 2-year-olds?" The answer in your mind doesn't need to be, "Oh, no, I'm not teaching 2-year-olds." The answer is they're not that's how they're recognizing it as dance.
Right.
For you, you have to go, "Yes, yes, we do. We have these parent and me classes. They're amazing. Here's all the benefits." Like,
Yeah.
that's your opportunity
And
to really be able to sell them
And
on
that's
that.
you just said the key. And here's the benefits of it. Here's how it's going to impact your
Yeah.
child long term, right? These are the long term benefits. But the problem is a lot of teachers don't know how to define those benefits, right? They know discipline. Dance makes
Mhm.
you discipline. Dance
Yeah.
gives you confidence. Dance,
Mhm.
you know, but there's so many other things that if you're not aware of it, you can't really tap into that and teach other people. So it really is worthwhile to go through some education to understand what it really is that we're doing in class through dance, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about what there are some great programs out there, and Trisha runs a lot of them.
Right. Yeah, that was gonna
And
be my
we're
next
going to have
thing.
her we're gonna have her talk about those at the end. They are incredible. I mean, I cannot say enough about it. And what how you need to know about this if you're a studio owner or a director or a manager, you need to be aware of these programs. So we're gonna talk about that at the end. If you're just joining, I'm Bree Zabrowski with Paula here with my fabulous partner and co-host Melissa McDaniel Grisham. This is Beyond the Steps. We're talking today with Trisha Gomez about what are the developmental benefits of offering parent and me classes at your studio. We have learned a ton today from Trisha about not only the scientific side of it and the research and the benefits to the children and the parents and how it stimulates the brain and prepares our kids for the future, but also we've talked about how this is an additional revenue stream and how this is going to benefit you on the business side if you do it right. So lots of good things here. Go back and rewatch the episode. We request to like, share, subscribe at Apollo Performance or TP Dance Creations or both. Make sure we're blasting this out as far as we can into the community because they need this information. That's why we do this every Friday. So thank you for watching and please share.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, along those same lines, Trisha, we talked about who needs to do this, who can do this. We've got kind of a profile of who we think those teachers could be and who's a great candidate. But are there actual trainings where you can learn to do this?
Well, just so happens there is. Yeah. So the IntelliDance program is, I haven't seen anything out there like it. I mean, it really, number one, gives you all of the bits and pieces that you need, but more importantly, it's the why behind the what you're doing in class.
Mhm.
And there's a training that goes along with it, and each training is specific to the age of the child. So, you don't have to do all 4 age groups. You can choose one and then add another one later on, or you can, go all in and do all the age groups. It goes through safety, like how should a parent be holding a baby? How should you be holding a baby? Different ways to hold the babies,
Mhm.
transitioning from the floor to standing up, things that you wouldn't think about, but are important to know, and so we go through not only that, but the content of it, and we look at, and this is the only program that I know of that does this. It takes dance concepts and pairs and marries them to music concepts, right? So we may look at something like size and dynamics, right? So we're listening to the music, and when the music gets really loud, we're going to do really big movements. And if
Okay.
the music is little and tiny, then we're going to do tiny movements, right? Or level in pitch. So when my voice goes high, we're going to go up. When my voice goes low, we're going to go down, right? So we're connecting that auditory and visual and proprioception and vestibular, and it's really a multi-sensory experience for these kids, but it connects to things. It always blows my mind that as dancers, we don't do a whole lot of music education in
Right.
our classes, right? You just kind of hope that they get it by osmosis some kind of way, you know? But this really takes time to connect that. And there's there's movement activities. We're playing with instruments and all kinds of, we're doing motor planning skills, cognitive skills, all kinds of different things. So it really hits all the points. And it was created by Jessica Griffin, who is an early childhood educator out of Canada. And when I say I'm a brain nerd, she's like a brain nerd. Like she takes it to the next level. So everything is jam packed with just like, this is why, this is how it impacts you. So you don't have to go out, reinvent the wheel, try to figure it out. Okay, I'm going to do this activity. What is it that we're actually doing? It's all done for you already. So that's what I would recommend.
Intelligent.
I love it. It's the intelligence program. So we're going to go into, Trisha, you're going to tell us all about how we can find all of your rhythm works and intelligence and all the things. Before we're going to kind of transition into homework right now. And if you remember from the last time you were on, we like to give one piece of homework for our guests to really feel like they've accomplished something attainable, something they can do in the next 7 days from this show to the next show to make progress in this way. So what is one action or one piece of homework you want our listeners to take between now and next week to kind of jumpstart them moving towards this direction for their programs, their curriculum, their studio, their kids, whatever?
So I actually have two, but I'm going to go with this one first, is start surveying parents as to when the most ideal time would be to offer these classes, because kids have naps, right? There's different things like, is it better to do it at 8 o'clock in the morning when everybody's fresh and the kids haven't gone down for a nap yet? Each area is going to have different, preferences. So whether it's, jump into a parent group of new parents and say, hey guys, thinking about adding these classes, what would be the best time and day for you guys, right? Saturday mornings tend to be a popular time, or, whatever it is in your community. But I think that will kind of help you narrow down to see what works out for the families and can you accommodate that in your schedule. I think that's a really good just baseline place to start. The other thing that I would say is if you are intrigued about it, reach out to me. Let's set up with our team a discovery call to see if it's the right program for you, if it's the right thing for you guys to do, who might be a good teacher for this program for your studio, and kind of dive into those nitty-gritty questions in terms of logistics and things like that. So
I love that. And this is a total sidetrack question, but obviously when we talk about caps on classes and things like that, revenue drives that decision, and the teacher, but you have to bring in enough money to cover the class and all the things. But ideally, what is the number of kids we want to see in a class like this? We don't want to, I assume, overfill this class. So
I think 12, I would max out at about 12. It depends on the space you have, right? If it's a big space, you can maybe be able to fit a couple more in there. But in terms of revenue, think of it like this. So sessions are typically 9 to 10 weeks. We would charge maybe $150. And again, this is going to be different no matter where you are because everybody is going to charge different things. But say it's $150 per session. Then let's go conservative. Say you have 8 kids or 8 families in class. So 150 times 8. And let's say you're running, 3 sessions a year. That's $1,800. That's, or say, if you're doing 3 classes, or not 3 classes, but 4 classes. So say you're doing babies, tykes, tots, kids. So you're doing 4 classes 3 times a year, and you have 8 kids in class. That's going to end up being just under $1,500 or $15,000 in revenue for you. So,
and you're making a block in your schedule. If you're doing all of those ages, you're making a block in your schedule so you can afford it. Like you're paying one teacher to be there for an entire block of time. And then that also solves that problem on the schedule, right? And like
split it up into like to this day and to that day.
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, what do you want to do with $15,000? What would you do with $15,000 that you didn't have yesterday?
I ain't mad at that. I'm not mad at
$15,000. I surely will. And there's also a conversion there of these parents can move their students into more traditional classes later, which is this residual revenue
Yeah.
that you can make in the future as well.
But that's also $15,000 from like you're not borrowing that from your existing customer base.
Right.
You're
This is
creating an
all new.
entire new
All
customer base to serve, and where those revenue dollars are coming from. You're not borrowing from the other, which is always what we want to see, right, as a business.
Right.
So
right.
that's fantastic. We have homework for you, as well as that homework never changes, you guys. So we want you to take our Steps Initiative course. This course is the premise of this entire show. It's how we got it started. We developed it during the pandemic, as you know, we were feeling very helpless and we wanted to do something. And so we kind of put together and curated this course from experts in every field, from racism to gender equity, sex abuse prevention, nutrition, psychology, and dance, medicine, and science. It's all in there. There are modules that you can take at your own pace. It's completely free. It is not everything you need to know by any stretch, but it is free, and it is a great way to lay the foundation and kind of gives you resources to learn further and dig deeper on your own, which is what we can hope for and always hope for. But we have people taking these with their staff. Parents taking these with their children. So just be aware that these are things that you can all do. And again, you go at your own pace. You're not bound to do this in a certain time frame. When you know better, you do better. That's all I'm going to say. So take the Steps Initiative course. And then finally, Trisha, this is where you need to educate and school the people on how they get a hold of Trisha Gomez and all of the wonderful programs that you all curate.
Yeah, we got a lot going on, you guys.
Yeah,
So I guess the single place that I would drive people to would be inspirecreateeducate.com, because that'll take you to a landing page that has all of our things. So you'll see IntelliDance, you'll see the RhythmWorks program, you'll see all of our teaching resources and things like that. One of the new things that we just started doing was we took 3 of the modules from the RhythmWorks certification. So it's understanding behavior, sensory integration, learner types and teaching styles. And then we also added in executive function deficits, because what we were seeing is, and I'm sure you guys have seen this all over the Facebook, like there's a lot of people who are like, help, I don't know what's going on with this behavior. They're not participating, or they're running around and I can't, like, there's so many behaviors that people are seeing just out of your normal classes that you do every day. So it's called Classroom Management SOS. It's a 4-hour training. It's $99 per teacher. And you get access to the course for a whole year, because it's so much rich, intense, new information that there's no way that you'll remember it all just from watching it once. What you'll do is you'll watch it once, and then something will happen and you go like, oh, I remember Trisha said something about X, Y, and Z. And then you can go back and pull up that portion of it and remember what we said. It's kind of that rinse and repeat thing where you need to do it over and over and over again for it to really be instilled into you. But it's a game changer when it comes to understanding how kids, there's so much neurodivergence now in our classrooms. There's research that supports that 1 in 6 kids have some kind of sensory challenge, whether it's a sensory seeking need or a sensory avoiding challenge. And that's not kids who are diagnosed with autism or, Down syndrome or whatever. These are just general population, average people. And so if you're teaching a class of 12 kids, 2 of them are going to have some kind of sensory challenges. And if you're not even aware of what that means or how that impacts learning or ability to self-regulate, you're going to have some problems, and it's going to drain you. And it's going to be like, oh God, it's Tuesday at 3:30, Johnny's coming to class, sucks the life out of me, right? You go from that to, okay, I'm going to be super, super aware of what's going on, what's triggering this behavior, what happens after the behavior, what seems to be making this behavior happen, what's the function of this behavior, how can I modify it, what can I do? Like, it gives you the power back to be in control of your class, but also to see that using your own creativity, you can be the one person who can help a child, that has maybe been through bunch of different activities, and everybody keeps saying, oh, this isn't for you, try dance. This isn't for you, try dance, right? And you can really make an impact on kids like that. It's just one of those things that I think every teacher should know, no matter what age they teach or what ability or genre. It's just good information to have. So
It's so important because it's so important because we don't have a governing body. We don't have a training or certification that we have to do as dance educators, and we're working with the most important people in the world, which is children. And
Right.
so it is really our responsibility as the people running these organizations, studio owners, directors, managers, whatever, to make sure that we are receiving the proper training and basing it off current information, not information from 50 years ago, information from now and going into the future. So inspirecreateeducate.com is where it's at. Trisha, I know you are really good about making yourself available to those that are on a quest for knowledge and looking to implement these things. So how can people get a hold of you directly for consult, to ask questions? What's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, I have many email addresses, but you can do Trisha at rhythmworksid.com. So I'll spell that TRICIA at RHYTHMWORKSID.com. Or admin at rhythmworksid.com. And what we can do is we can set up a discovery call with you. Jacqueline would be the one that you would be speaking with. She can go through what your desires are, what your needs are, the size of your staff, what works best for you. And then, take it from there. If it works for you, great. If it's not what you're looking for, I hope you find something that is what you're looking for. But yeah, I call it the soft skills, right? So you have to invest in this information, and it's not super cheap, but it is valuable. And it's not one of, like, when I look at IntelliDance has a direct, like, buy this program and it will create X number of dollars for you, right? Or like acrobatic arts, get certified in this, it'll create X number of revenue for you. Whereas things like classroom management SOS or YPAD or things like that, that are what I would consider soft skills, are those skills that are going to be kind of the underlying flow of retention, right? So those two kids out of every class who might drop because their needs weren't met, though that's attrition, right? So if you're dropping 2 kids out of every class you have on your schedule, multiply 2 times the number of kids you have on your schedule. Can you afford to lose that many students per year?
No.
Right? What if you can take half of them? Right? That's much better. So trainings like this are really that underlying foundation of class retention. So you don't directly see the investment to revenue, but over the course of time you do, and it just saves your stress level.
Right. Absolutely.
Like you said, you when you know better, you do better. So sometimes you just don't know what you need to know.
That's right. Trisha Gomez, thank you so much.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure. We definitely want to have you back because I just picked out so many things on my little notepad over here that I wanted to dive more deeply into. Back again this season. And thank you so much, Bree, for being here for our first guest show. Not our first show, because we did a season opener a few weeks ago, but our first guest show. So thank you so much for being on this journey with me and going back in for season 4. Thank you to the viewers who have stuck with us all season and the new peeps. Thank you for being there. We hope that you continue with us throughout this season and go back and watch all those other seasons on YouTube at Apollo Performance or at TP Dance Creations. They are gems. Please go watch them. Our next episode, 11/10, November 10th, we have Carlos Sparks, who's another returning guest. Yes, we love Carlos. How performers can prepare for the mental and physical challenges of tour life. Super duper important things you should consider before you even audition versus things you can consider while you are on tour. So please like and share this episode. Subscribe to our channels. Go back and watch it from the beginning if you have not. And if you have a topic that you want to talk about, please email it to us. We want to know, info@apolloperformance.com, or you can DM either of us on any of our social platforms at Apollo Performance or at TP Dance Creations. Until next time, we hope you continue your journey beyond the steps. See you later.